Good morning.
Good
We got
morning.
Danielle, Serge in the house. How are you guys doing?
Hello.
Good. We miss you, Joel. We miss you. It's been a couple of weeks. Good to
I'm
have you
having
back.
couple of
separation
weeks.
anxiety. It starts now.
Well, I'm back. But we are missing our friend, our brother, the Paz. So, Paz, if you're out there, make fun of me in the chat. Otherwise, my life will not be complete. But
Me
it's good to
too.
be back with you guys. Yeah, exactly. Well, guys, look, if you're out there as well, I always like to do this. If you're out there, this is a real live show. So, like, I'm here, Danielle's there, Serge is in the cave down there, and but we're here live, so we want to hear from you. So let us know in the chat. Say hi, say where you're calling in from, and it's good to have you guys here. But we
Yeah,
want to
I
make it
woke up at the
interactive.
crack of dawn for all of you.
Oh, where
What
So
time
are
is
you,
that?
Danielle? I see
I'm
a
in
Yeah,
bunch
where
of.
are you?
San Fran up here in the Bay Area.
Oh, you
And
hanging out?
I haven't been here in like 10 years. So it's actually really fun. It's
So,
cool.
how has San Francisco changed in the last 10 years? Are the stories true? Like, what's the vibe in San Francisco right now?
I don't
What,
I don't think
homeless?
I'm qualified to answer that question, but I will say downtown, like around like Mission Street, I don't know what they call this area,
Yeah.
like where the convention center is like very dead and like kind of weird vibes. But I already had the best pizza of my entire life. So
Mm,
I don't know. I'm getting conflicting things here.
amazing,
Well, tell us what you're
amazing.
doing in San Francisco. Are you at a conference? What's the deal?
Yeah. So I'm at an industrial technology conference of all things. Industrial intelligence, I think is how they say it. And I'm basically covering like the conference on the ground. And essentially I think they're coming out with a whole campaign today about Generation I, which is not a what, but rather a who. And
Yeah.
it's basically fostering this mindset of, you know, innovation and not being afraid to explore the unknown when it comes to AI, of all things, of course. And so I really
I've
like
heard of
that.
it.
Yeah, of course. Who hasn't? Um, yeah. So it's exciting. It's fun. It's cool to like go into an industry I have literally
Yeah.
no idea and like nothing to do with, and just be like, hey, you want an interview? You know, it's fun. So
I
yeah,
love
that's what I'm
that. I
doing
love
here.
it. Well, we got pause in the chat. Yes, I am awake. We got LinkedIn user. You got to change your privacy settings so we can know who you are, or you could just type in, say who you are. We got Ulysses Lopez there. Good to see you guys or it's good to see you in SoCal. And then we got White Evan. Oh, they switched it up. It's now
Oh,
Evan
no.
White.
Oh, I kind of
They've
Right.
miss it
switched it
the other
up.
way.
I
prefer
yeah.
it.
Get back to it. And then Ulysses said, "I'm Gen I." Then let's go, sis. Love it. Well, guys, welcome to the HR Morning Show. This is the number one. You heard it, number one spot for HR news, conversations, and a ton of other good stuff. If you guys have not already, you got to subscribe on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. I think we're nearly up to 2,000 followers, which is like,
We're getting there.
yeah, it's like 100th of my follower count, but it's all good. Way to go. No, I'm just kidding. I shouldn't say that. But go to purpleacornnetwork.com, and there you can actually see all of our other shows as well. We got a ton of really great content. I think we got a show for every single day of the week, which no one else can claim. We're on YouTube, and we are a real podcast, which we'll get to shortly. But guys, if you're not following us on LinkedIn, go to our Purple Acorn page. I think we have clips going all the time. So
Yeah.
you can stay up to date with the show as well. And everyone in the comments, again, if you're out there, just say hi, drop in and say hi. Let us know what kind of coffee you're drinking, if you're drinking coffee. Danielle, let's see your coffee.
Guys,
Look
this
at this.
coffee is beautiful. I don't think I've ever had
Oh.
a prettier glass. And they brought it to me on a tray. It was like my dream come true. Truly, I thought I was dreaming.
Such
So
a Gen Z
It pays to
vibe.
be Gen Z, Serge. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, look what I got. I got a pink Yeti that my wife
Yeah,
got like
I
4
have.
years ago. Yeah. I don't even get
guys,
things
you
for
should just be
myself.
younger. It's fine.
I've tried that. Serge, how's that going for you?
It's not going so well, but we look pretty young, right?
We do look
Most
young.
days.
Well, guys, we love to see you all out there. Paz, hopefully you're doing good out there as well. Yes, I am humble. This is LinkedIn, okay? This is the home of humble
Why is he
brags.
gassing us up? He's supposed to be wrecking us right now.
Yeah, he's being way too nice. Well, guys, look,
Way too nice.
it's good to be back here. Good to be back. Why don't we move on to this week's headlines? What is in the news?
Ooh.
All right. Today we are talking about Gen Z, me, myself, and I. So, how AI is impacting Gen Z workers and their skills. I will say, I read this article and I was like, well, no, duh. Like, isn't it impacting all of our skills? And also, a lot of the things that they were talking about, I was like, well, these things were already on the decline before AI became like
Yeah.
usable. So essentially, the article is talking about the dense downsides of AI for Gen Z. And among the things that they kind of list that they notice amongst Gen Zers in the workplace since AI has come out is A, weakened critical skills, critical thinking, a cognitive trap, which means basically leading to a decline in cognitive abilities. I'm like, are we like, do we have dementia or something? Like, what are we talking about? And then big picture blindness, which they cite as like not being able to see the bigger picture and like
Yeah.
understanding the end to end process of things.
Yeah.
And then they list some benefits, including creativity, content creation, faster learning, and skills gap closure. So yeah, my overall take is like, yeah, this was happening anyways, and we weren't being proactive to address the, critical thinking, like a decline, which has been a problem in education for
Yeah.
literally so long. Like, it's actively hilarious how low the U.S. education is ranked in terms of the, on the world spectrum. It's insane. But to blame it on AI, I think is like kind of short sighted. And yeah, what about you guys? What do you think about this article?
Serge, hit it up.
Yeah, so if you read the article, there's obviously the downsides that they're talking about. But I just think it's outdated thinking in a sense, right? Because how we work is changing. So we're taking everything in the box that we know, but let's just look at how the new generation coming into work and even old people like me are learning and leveraging AI. It's just like we're evolving. Like I
Yeah.
don't think critical thinking is going to be a major issue. It's like it's just changing how we approach things. Like the cognitive offloading as far as leveraging AI to do a lot of the tasks that you had to do and take a lot of time to do in the past. I don't see that as a negative. I really see what we're doing with AI and how we're leveraging it. It's actually going to help the younger generation coming in the workforce to be way more efficient, way quicker than we were when we came in the workforce. So I don't see it as an issue. I think it's just going to be different than what it used to be in the past. And that's all right.
I was so surprised in the article they didn't mention like communication.
Yes.
But I guess that's not because I feel like that's probably a bigger issue than like AI kind of impacting
You
things.
mean like what kind of communication? Like interpersonal communication?
Yeah,
like
I'm talking about
yeah.
in-person communication, reading the room, emotional
Yeah.
intelligence. I think those are probably bigger weak points that I would see. And that again, it probably isn't from AI. It's probably more to do with the social distancing and the things that we had for a number of years at a really, it's kind of a critical time for a lot of Gen Z. Either you're in college, you're in like, an entry level position. I think being, having to be basically alone during those years probably has impacted communication. But I think in terms of like what I got from that article, I was like cognitive, the cognitive side of things, like you said, Danielle, I don't think that's AI. I just think it's down, it is the education system.
They also don't cite any Gen Zers in the article. And I just like lose respect for you when you write about Gen Z and you don't cite any
they
Gen
couldn't
Zers.
find any Gen Zs that knew how to write. So that was part of the problem.
Right. That's the problem. Or talk to people. So
So
I'm especially raising my hand. I've actually been in touch with Forbes. They like have not responded. I've been introduced to the Forbes team to like be a contributor,
yeah.
and they like just don't respond. Um,
It's
but
because you gotta pay, Danielle. There's a pay to play there.
Yeah,
So
you gotta
no,
pay.
no, like to be like one of their correspondents. But anyway, my point being, I don't think that like this technology is going anywhere. So, in my opinion, going back to like what Serge was saying about, this is actually, we're actually teaching people how to work, how we're going to work in the future. And
Yeah.
I can't help but like when I returned to my high school a few months back, I actually made it a point to ask them, like, what are you doing about AI? Like, are you
yeah,
incorporating it into your
probably
teaching? Are
nothing.
you not? And they're like, yeah, no, we actually don't know how to address this whole thing. And it's like, I think
Yeah.
the education system as a whole has been coming to a breaking point, and I think it's
Mm.
at the breaking point. And I think the education system is broken, and likely that's why we're seeing Trump dismantle the Department of Education. Whether or not that's a good thing is like out of my pay grade to decide. But I will say, I think we do need to rehaul the entire way we're thinking about how we're educating people and what exactly we're teaching them.
I look.
Amen.
Last thing I would just say, I just want to get in the chat real quick, but I would say like us educating, like we got to educate ourselves as well. Like I think a lot of
Yeah.
people got to educate. Like if you think education is other
For
people
sure.
teaching you, that's fundamentally a wrong way to think. You got to educate yourself. But Ulysses said by 2034, 80% of the workforce is going to be millennials, Gen Z. I'm a Gen X. I'm fully on board with Gen Z and millennials. Got my AI in class certifications a week ago. So Ulysses is doing exactly what I'm saying. He's
That's why
educating himself. It's
he's
huge.
Generation I.
Generation I, and then and then Stephen asked, do those communication abilities fall under the category of soft skills? Probably soft
Yes.
skills.
I
Serge,
don't like
and
the
I
term
cut you
soft
off.
skills.
Serge, what were you gonna say? I apologize, I cut you off there too early.
No, I was just curious because one of the things that's listed is creativity is dying in their words, right? And
Eh,
I think it's completely the opposite. I think AI and everything that we're exposed to gives us more ability to find things to create, right? Like I think there is
yeah,
more opportunities, more ideas generated than there's ever been before. I think it's becoming a little bit overwhelming, but I don't think creativity is going to be an issue at all.
yeah.
Look, I have to slightly disagree there in terms of
Yeah, tell me.
okay, so like I think of like content creation,
Yeah.
on a platform like LinkedIn, right? And obviously that's not the only platform that people are creating content. But I think what's happening is that you do have people who consider themselves creatives, and are creating things without the help of AI. And then you have other people that are really getting reliant on AI to like create and come up with content. And so I think if you don't exercise that muscle of coming up with things and having your own original thoughts,
Yeah.
I do think you have the danger of relying on AI. And the problem is if you want to use AI as the best, you have to be an SME, because otherwise it's going to regurgitate things that aren't true, and you don't have the wherewithal and the knowledge to know that it's not true. So, for example, I just put together a job seeker course, right? A 4-week cohort. It took me about 10 hours to do, but it would have taken me 40 hours to do
Yeah.
without AI. And literally
Mhm.
what I was doing was speaking all of the modules and like just word vomit, speaking it into an AI tool, then having the AI tool summarize everything. But I could still go through the points and go, okay, this isn't right. This is right. This isn't right. And I think if you don't have that SME and that true subject matter expertise and that creativity in the first place, then you that's why they say like a lot of the content kind of looks the same, right? And I think
Right.
that's the danger. It's like, are you fully relying on it, or are you still having your SME and your voice in there? And I think
Mhm.
that's the muscle that maybe we start to lose as time goes
Mhm.
on and people just go, all right, let's
Right.
just go to AI for it.
Good point.
I feel like what you're talking about is like personal development and like thought leadership development
Yeah.
and experience building.
Yeah.
And I feel like we collectively need to do a better job of guiding people and helping them understand who they are and like what their
Mm.
mission is, what they're passionate about. I think that's probably like something that career development places in college should probably be doing more of, but they don't, right? And so it's like it's going back to like what I was saying before. It's like it's just a broken system. But I
Yeah.
will say I find myself both enabled and also like negatively impacted sometimes by AI and it from a content perspective, because it's like I'll feed it an idea, much like you were saying, and then it'll come up with like, okay, here's how to structure it, and like here's like an outline, and that's amazing, and that's great for my brain because I can't do that. But then from the perspective of like writing scripts and like,
Yeah.
like a first script, when you give it a prompt on like, oh, make a video about how to find a job, let's just say,
Yeah.
like the script is going to suck,
Of course.
and it's
Yeah.
going to be super boring and generic. So you have to, going to back to what you were saying, develop your voice and develop that message and that tone, so that then you could say, well, write it as if you're Danielle Farage, or write it as if you're, this other content creator like Joel, and write it
No,
in
don't
that
do that.
style.
Don't do that. It would just
That's what
say
people
Yeah.
start doing.
it would just say, this is really hard to find a job. Agree, and then you won't go viral. Well, look, those are the headlines, right? So, guys, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments. Jana, great to see you from Austin. I love it. Hey, let me know in the chat, like, where's the furthest place people are tuning in from? I want to know if we're global right now. So if you're outside of the US, let me know in the chat. If you guys have other thoughts about how AI is impacting Gen Z, would love to hear your comments as well in the chat. This is a great conversation, but it looks like, do we have our man in the house right now? Clark Wilcox in the house, the Hot 100? Let's see.
I can hear you. Yeah. There we go. Hey, for whatever reason, the setting didn't have my microphone set up, so apologies. But we'll do the Hot 50, not the Hot 100 today. No, the AI talk was, I think, is relevant. I think the beginning of what I want to talk about today is beginning of Q2, right? There's been a big shift the last few months. AI is rampant, as you guys have talked about. I think, Joel, what you talked about with the SME is so important with AI and content, right? People are getting worked up about politics like they always are. Like what I talk about today, which I've been talking about with my clients this month, is just the fundamentals never change, right? AI, the landscape, the culture, but the fundamentals of, recruiting, of always be qualifying. I don't care if you're an internal or an external recruiter, right? If nothing matters if you don't work on roles that are going to close. And as market might be tightening up in some sectors and some industries, it's really important that you don't waste your time, that you're super efficient, right? Calls are still king. Content's great. Email's great. LinkedIn. But getting on the phones, talking to your market, right? Having that pulse as recruiters is super important, that we don't lose that call time. Even with AI and everything else, people want that human connection, right? And this is also a way to know the market better than anyone else, right? Be a subject matter expertise, as Joel, as you were saying, right? Know what people are going through, the issue with work remote or in person or hybrid, right? And be relentlessly consistent, right? Chipping away every single day. It's amazing what can build up over time. And at times where people are panicking and there's chaos, right? Just like being that steady presence, just showing up and doing your work every single day, right? And then you can post about that, right? You that's what builds the pipeline. That's what builds trust, especially right now when there's people are looking for some leadership. Like that's pretty important. So again, hitting those fundamentals, that never goes out of style no matter what's going on around you, right? Just hitting that every single day, that as you go into kind of Q2 and the Q1 kind of, we're going to have a great year. Now that reality starts to sit in, typically the people that stick to like their fundamentals and their plan and kind of figure out how to merge all that with the fundamentals, that's what works. What's up, y'all?
What is up, dude?
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened. It was a rookie mistake.
It's all right. Next time you just get AI to do the talking for you.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Is my deep fake didn't show up for me today, so that's all right. How we doing?
Doing good.
Man.
How you doing, Clark?
Good.
I'm good. We got 2 under 2 over here. We got a colic baby, but we're hanging on.
Yeah, how's that going? How's the baby?
Oof.
growing's tough for the little ones. It's it's a whole challenge. Being new to the world. So he's hanging in there. Mom's a champ. What we're doing what we do over here. It's fun, and but every day is an adventure.
I love it, man.
So Clark,
Love it.
I'm curious. You mentioned cold calling.
Yeah.
And obviously in a world of AI generated messages on LinkedIn, emails, is cold calling back? Is it in full force? Is it what you should be doing if you're in sales of any type?
Yeah. I think cold calls are tough. Warm calls are where it's at. And that's where
Yeah.
what I work with recruiters on is make LinkedIn your foundation, right? Because you have the feed where you don't have that in calls and emails. You have the ability to connect with your ideal market every single day, have some sequences around that messaging, post content, be relatable to them, right? Talk about the problems that they're going through, their pain points, show how you could be essentially a problem solver for them, right? And if you build that momentum, people will accept your invites, but maybe not reply. They might view your profile, like or comment. Those are the people that you want to follow up with. It's never been easier to build a really warm pipeline of warm calls and warm emails. And that's kind of like the top of funnel approach. So people are already kind of familiar, or, hey, I connected with you on LinkedIn. This is why, right? You leave that type of voicemail. And I do recommend leaving voicemails because it's the auto transcribe, or I answer sometimes in the middle of a voicemail now, or I've had clients leave voicemails with managers. They come back on LinkedIn. Hey, got your message. Thanks for reaching out. Sorry, I didn't get back to you here earlier. Let's find a time to chat. Right. And so I think building up a warm call list is the way that people I know that are winning and leveraging calls are doing it, versus just like the 100 calls, random calls every single day. There's really just no need for it anymore. It's not really an intelligent strategy.
Yeah.
So Luke has a comment here asking why LinkedIn should be the foundation. Are you tying yourself to one platform? What's your thought there?
Well, I said foundation. I didn't say the end all be all. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's the starting point, right? I use email. I call every single day, right? The connect, for me, I talk about connect, calls, and content. So I'm connecting with people every day. I'm on the phones every day, and I'm posting every day. But LinkedIn's where I can build the ecosystem of warm leads. I have a newsletter, right, that I build out. And Joel, I know you have a newsletter as well, right? I get people to my own platform, and then I'm on calls. I typically have 20 to 30 calls a week with people as well. But everything is warmed up and nothing is cold on my end. And so you can build up a warm pipeline. So every part of your week is pretty hyper efficient.
Hey, look, Serge has got some homies in the house here. We got Estelle in the house. Let's go.
Yeah.
Canada representing.
In the house. Yeah.
I think Adam called you the Canadian Kenny Rogers or Mr. Rogers. Not Kenny Rogers.
He did say that.
Yeah.
Let's bring that comment back up.
Yeah.
Clark, it's interesting to me with what you're saying, because I think there is a danger when it comes to business development right now that I'm seeing, and it's been like this maybe the last decade that I've been in recruitment, and there's a constant search for like quick fixes. And I remember when email sequences became popular, and it was like amazing. You could just set it and forget it. And I remember one of the sales managers I had one time was like, let's just send out 7 stage sequences over 10 days, because I read in an article that you need 7 touch points. And I think sometimes we're like searching for these like quick answers, but it's like I love what you said about like that foundation of, hey, you're trying to connect with another human. So you really need to think about that. And I think there's just such a danger within recruitment, within sales, where like someone reached out to me recently and said, hey, I can set up 100 different domains and you could send out 20,000 emails. It's like,
great.
Like, okay, so if 100 companies that you work with do this, like, how does that help? I was like, I want to make a human connection with people. And I think even with content, it's the same way. Yes, you use it as like a way to kind of create awareness. But look, as someone who has 1 million followers, I could promise you this: I do not have 1 million warm relationships. Okay, I have a lot less than that, but I can use that awareness to like start relationships. And I think that seems to be the part that people forget. And it's like with a relationship and trust, if anything, has gotten harder to build, and it's taken more time.
Yeah.
So I think there's this illusion that like, hey, someone viewed your profile on LinkedIn. Like, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that they want to, do $1 million business with you. It means that they were just interested and they checked your profile out. So I think understanding that and understanding the human side of relationships is huge. And I love that you brought that correlation in.
Yeah.
You couldn't be more spot on.
I will say though too, like I've been leveraging voice notes within LinkedIn, and people love it. So that's also something that I think is probably underrated that people should start using if
Couldn't
they're
agree
not.
more.
Yeah.
I
I
tried
never
videos in
thought.
the DMs for a while, but nobody responded. And in
No,
fact,
videos
one guy,
don't
Yeah,
they don't
that's a
work.
little spammy.
Yeah, they
yeah,
don't
what?
want to click outside and all that, and it's
It's a
just kind
little
of
weird.
awkward.
No, it was an
to get
embedded. It
there.
was the
Yeah.
embedded video because you could send an
Yeah.
embedded video. And one guy was like, "I would never do business with someone that looks so unprofessional." And I was like,
Oh.
"Target on your back now. Who's your best
Yeah.
sales rep? I'm about to go
Yeah.
place him somewhere."
Someone doesn't like my Scooby Doo sweatshirt. Yeah,
It's just jealous.
It's all right. The voice memos, to your point, are gold. And half the time, I get people be like, "How do you send a voice memo?" Right? But it's a great conversation starter, and it breaks the ice. I'm like, "Well, you go to the mobile phone app. You do it that way." But it also it's a way to have that connection, a way for people to know that you're not an AI message. Right, you're not sending
Yeah.
one. It's so you have to really understand the landscape and how quickly it changes. And because most people, Joel, to your point, are just thinking about themselves. Oh, now I can do this. Now I can do that. But they forget to how is that landing? And what are other people doing? Right, you forget about your audience's experience and their day to day and what they're going through and what they're seeing. And that's where like a voicemail with Danielle right now they're working so well because they're cutting through that noise. And it's like, wow, you took the time to like do something and say something to me, versus all the the AI slop that's kind of
Yeah.
being generated and published.
The AI slop. Well, look, that's the Hot 50 with Clark Wilcox. Where can people find out about you? Where's the best place for people to connect?
Clark Wilcox, double L and Wilcox on LinkedIn, digitalrecruiter.io. That's the best place to connect. And by the way, I'll see you guys at the end of the month in ERE. So I'm excited for that.
I
Awesome.
love it,
See you
man.
soon.
I love it. Good to see you, Clark.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Bye.
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 Hello, Eric.
Hello, hello.
How's it going?
It's going fantastic.
Good. Wow. What a background.
Well, usually I have my green screen behind me with my bookshelf and everything, but this platform doesn't allow for it. So you get to see
Oh.
my beautiful green screen studio.
Wow, that's so cool. It's honestly like goals. I would love to have a studio like that. That's very cool. Well, welcome to the HR Morning Show. Why don't you take a moment and share with the audience who you are and what you do?
Well, what I do is a really complex question, as with kind of anyone in this space. But there's what I say I do, and then what I really do.
Okay.
So what I say I do is I do brain science of communication. I help organizations communicate. But what I really do is I help people see themselves in the dichotomy of judgment versus curiosity. And that applies everywhere in personal relationships, in work relationships, in stranger relationships, in Facebook relationships. And I help people realize how often we jump to judgment when we perceive things differently. And I'm a nerd for brain science, so I'm consuming a lot of brain science research and translate it to real human speak.
Wow, I love that so much. I'm curious, what's like the most interesting piece of research or research project going on right now that you're aware of?
So right now, there's really interesting research around perception and expectation. So a lot of times we think that we have some perception and that perception shapes our expectations, but it's actually flipped. And so if we have an expectation of something, then we are more likely to perceive it. And there's a lot of big hubbub around DEI and that sort of thing, but when you understand how that works, I have this really cool experiment that I do live in my keynote sessions where I'll ask, left half of the room, close your eyes for 10 seconds, right half of the room, look at the screen. And I show them a picture. It's a picture of a guy holding his cell phone in a car. And they say, okay, then I take it away. And I say, okay, everyone open your eyes, look at what's on the screen now. And it's a totally abstract version of the same picture. I remove all the colors, I fuzzy the lines, and I say, raise your hand if you know what you're looking at. And everyone who saw the original image raises their hands. And everyone who had their eyes closed are like, I have no idea what I'm looking at. They cannot perceive it at all.
That's wild.
And they're looking at the other side of the room like, how the heck is this possible? And because I gave them something to expect, they were able to perceive it. And I mean, the implications of that are so powerful, especially in the workplace, especially in leadership. It's like, oh my gosh, there is so much that we're moving toward that we don't even know that we're moving toward it because we have some expectations.
I love that. I feel like it really relates also to my work as well, because it's like people have a certain expectation of what Gen Z is and who we
Yes,
are.
absolutely.
And then, they go in with that confirmation bias of like, oh, like this is what this person's going to be like. And oh, wow, like, I'm interviewing this person or I'm working with this person and they're so Gen Z, like they're so according to the stereotype of being
Right.
lazy and entitled. And so
Yeah.
that's what they then perceive that person as, even if that person is not any of those things.
Yeah. And you can't, not you can't, but it's very difficult to overcome that kind of prejudgment. Like, how do you
Mm,
prove that you're not lazy? Because a lazy person isn't lazy all the time. They're just lazy when you don't want them to be lazy. So they're just waiting for it to show up. Whether
right.
you're on time, you're early every meeting, but that one time someone's in your office and you're delayed, you're like, oh, see, look, a Gen Z. Now, the really interesting thing about this, and I'm so glad you brought this up, is that we have been judging the younger generation as lazy
Forever.
and entitled forever. I actually found a quote from Aristotle, and he said,
Whoa.
young people are so self-absorbed nowadays, they've forgotten there's such a thing as walking. And I don't
Wow.
know if you know timeline, but Aristotle was around before Jesus. Like
That's wild.
thousands of years ago, we've been judging the young generation. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe it's not Gen Z. Maybe it's not millennials. Maybe it's not boomers. Maybe it's just new people coming in have a different way of seeing the world and it's scary to us.
Yeah.
And they have technology we didn't have. And so we're like, look at how lazy they are. Or maybe they're leveraging technology to think differently about the world, leveling
Right.
up and moving us forward.
Right. Yeah. I think it's probably all of the above,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
honest. But I love that. I love that so much. And I'm actually curious, like how does this translate into more of what you do? So like for anyone in the room that like wants to, get involved in your work or read what you've written, like give us like a little bit of context as to like what your day to day looks like.
Yeah, so I created my business just around 10 years ago, and I created around this idea that we're separating as a society. We're normalizing division. We're losing the ability to communicate with each other, and
Mm,
it's awful. It's awful. So a few years ago, I wrote a book. It's called The Cure for Stupidity, using brain
wow.
science to explain irrational behavior, which I'm sure you've never seen before. And what it does is it breaks down 22 principles that are the brain science and psychology behind leadership, communication, and relationships. And when you go through them, you see how often we jump towards that judgment I was talking about earlier. And when we understand that, we can fundamentally change our view on the world, on other people, and we can build closer relationships. So I wrote the book. It's fantastic. It's a lot of fun. I wrote it like I speak, so it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I speak at conferences all over the world. I work with organizations all over the world.
Wow.
Just got someone reached out to me this morning from Dubai, and they're like, "Hey, would you come talk to our leadership team?" I'm like, "Yes, this is what I want to do. I want to give people the tools to be curious in the world. I want them to have
Mm.
tools to reduce their judgments and reduce their frustration." And when that happens, I mean, it's a really beautiful thing.
I love that so much, and I feel like it's so needed.
Mhm.
I am curious though, like when people bring you in, what's that process like? Because it's like, oh, I have an irrational person. Like, how do I soft parent them and like,
Well,
teach them how to not be irrational? What does that process look like?
so usually an organization will have gone through a lot of change recently,
Okay.
or they want to level up their teams, and they'll bring me in. We'll have a conversation, and everything I do is custom built. So I'll talk with them about what are they experiencing, what's been successful, what's been unsuccessful, and we build a session, whether it's I come in and I'll do like a series of workshops with them, or they have their big annual meeting. They'll have me come in, and we create this environment where people are inclined to let go of their previous understanding. And I've got some
Mm,
ways that I do this using some brain science and psychology tricks. I'm not going to let you know right now, but
okay.
and what happens is people kind of let that go, and then they need to reorient somewhere. And I create the environment where they reorient toward more curiosity. And they're
Mm,
looking at their neighbors and like, I never knew that about you. It's like, oh, because you're curious, you're learning about these ways and we're connecting. And when we connect, all of these things go away, right? So we're dealing with high turnover, burnout, loneliness. All that stuff just starts to melt away because of these environments we're creating where people are connecting through curiosity. And it's fun because for me, it's dynamic. Everything is different every time. And so I just get to watch these folks level up.
That's so cool. I know you won't share all of your secrets with us, but do you have like one kind of go-to tip for people who want to understand how to, how to be less judgmental, or how to like, deal with a difficult person?
Yeah. So here's one that that I think everyone will relate to. So do you remember back in 2017, I believe there was the dress, the blue black dress, or the white
Yes.
gold dress, and it kind
Oh
of
yeah.
split the internet. Well, that's a great example of how different people will perceive things differently. And what I teach is, when that happens, what do you think about them, the other person who saw it differently? The first thought we usually have is, you're an idiot. Like,
They're
how could you
weird.
possibly? Like, there's no way. And there's been things like that have come along. We've got there was a shoe. It was a gray and teal shoe, or
Yeah,
a white
I've seen
shoe.
I just saw one the other day where it was like a box above a different box, and it was like they're the same gray, but
Yeah,
if you like put your finger between the two, then like they look the same, but if you
yeah.
don't, then they look
But it looks like
different.
one's
Yeah.
lighter, one's darker. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so what happens is, when people perceive things differently, like in those cute little illusions, like, our first thought is to judge their intelligence or judge their character. And
Yeah.
that applies, in those cute things, but also at work, when you have that one person that is hard to deal with. Right. So I ask people all the time, what's the hardest part about being an HR leader or being a leader? And they're like, oh, dealing with people. If I don't have to deal with people, I'd love being a leader. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But then I follow it up and I say, what's the best part of your job? And they say, oh, the people I work with. Well, that doesn't make any sense. How could people be the best part and the worst part?
Yeah.
Then, because it's not all people, it's those people. And as soon as I say those people, there's like three that pop in your head. And so when you think about those people, the reason it's difficult to work with them is they don't communicate the way you do. They don't understand things the way you do. They perceive things differently, and we immediately judge their character or their intelligence when that happens. And so if you can get to this understanding that we perceive the world differently than other people, that all of that frustration can sort of melt away a little bit, and you can get curious, why do they perceive it that way? When I said something perfectly clear, why did they misunderstand me? What is it about the way that they perceive or the way that I speak helps that happen? And once you go through that process, all those little kind of weird situations start to melt away, and you can really start building relationships.
Yeah, I love that so much, and it actually reminds me of I go to Kabbalah, and like one of the things that we talked about is why certain people come into your life, and even if that person seems challenging to you,
Yes.
and it could be a family member, it could be a friend, it could be like someone at work, but essentially it's reframing from like that person's difficult to this person came into my life to teach me something.
Yes.
What can I learn from this situation?
Beautiful.
And just like opening yourself up to that curiosity, I think is like the key. And I think it's beautiful that you're teaching people to do that. So thank you.
Yeah,
And I love it. Now I'm going to follow your work. And I would love for you to, let everyone know how they could find you, how they could stay in touch, and maybe even interact with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials. I'm not really active on Twitter or X or whatever that is, but LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. But you can get my website. It's ericmbailey.com, M for Michael. And I've got a bunch of videos up there, a bunch of articles, and a contact. So if you want to reach out to me, if you want to bring me into your organization, happy to build something custom with you.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye.
All right. We got the event roundup. What is happening? A lot of events coming up, huh, Serge?
There is a lot of events. You're going to be traveling quite a bit because you're going to be at ERE, Recruiting Innovations Summit, I think it's called.
That's correct.
But
that's correct.
what are you doing? Like, because you're going there, you're going to Unleash as well, and then you're traveling to the UK in between. Like,
no, I'm not going to the UK in between, unfortunately. But I'm yeah, I'll be in Vegas for ERE, the Innovation Summit. I'll be emceeing there, which I'm super excited about. I know both the guys who are featured here are going to be there as well. So Taran will be there, Clark will be there as well. So super excited about that. And then at Unleash, you and I are going to be doing something exciting, which I'm sure we'll talk about, upcoming. But we're going to be doing some Purple Acorn live, so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I'm pretty jealous I'm missing the ERE event, especially Torn Ellis. Like, is there a better keynote out there in the whole industry than him? So we're going to miss out that, or I am. You're going to be there. Danielle's going to be there as well.
Yeah.
And then obviously friend of the show, Clark, is going to drop some knowledge bombs on us. As always, he's the king of business development in talent, in recruiting agencies. So I'm excited to see what he has to say.
100%, man. And we've got some other events coming up before that. So we've got Taran is going to be talking about what's happening in DE&I today. Just looking at like whether companies are actually dismantling or if they're just reframing and reinvesting in DE&I, which I think is a super relevant topic. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of the headlines right now of companies that seem to be dismantling things, but is that what's really going on behind the scenes? And that's going to be on Wednesday, April 30th at 10:30 a.m. So that's going to be massive. And then I think the reactive versus proactive recruiting, like you talked about with Clark, that one's going to be on Tuesday, April 29th. So both of these at ERE, which is amazing. And like you said, I think these are going to be hopefully recorded so we could check them out afterward. But either way, if you're not going to the Recruitment Innovation Summit, you got to get there with ERE. And if you're interested in that too, DM me. I got some codes and stuff that you can use as well. I get some affiliate revenue. Just kidding, I don't. But I could get you a discount, which will save you some money with that. So super excited about both of those talks. And I think the more that we can invest in outreach, for businesses, the more money we're going to make. And then obviously with DE and I, we need to have these conversations. So excited to be there for that as well. You're going to miss out, bro. You got to come. If you're not going, I don't think anyone else is going to go.
Yeah, I know that's going to be an issue. And for Unleash, which is coming up as well, if you're a vendor and you're going and you want to activate your brand, like Purple Acorn, this whole crew can definitely help you out. So reach out to us. If you've ever had Joel at your booth, man, like that guy attracts 1,000 people. The lineup is insane. So
they're chasing me down.
We're hiring us.
Yeah, chasing me down. I mean, usually I'm if I'm not there with Paz, I don't know what will happen. Probably way more attention. But yeah, definitely, guys. Look, if you're looking to get more brand awareness in general, reach out to us. We're always looking to connect. Reach out to myself, Serge, or Evan White, who's in the chat as well. If you guys aren't connected with Evan White, you need to connect with him. He's always in the center of all the trouble at these events. But that is this week's ERIN roundup. So super excited for these events, and we'll move on to the global report. I think, Serge.
Man, we are. Let's do it.
Lynn, welcome. Good to see you.
Hello there. You are sporting the most amazing sport.
I did it just for you.
I love it. I saw it earlier. Go, Joel.
Yeah, well, my daughter's she loves this shirt, and I got one of the little round balls as well, and that's the swag that the kids love.
I know, right? I know how to get swag for kids and pets.
That's what I love that. I love it. Well, it sounds like last week. So I wasn't actually on the show last week, but it sounds like we had a little bit of a dust storm going on. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
Like, what was happening?
So I live out in the desert. People don't know I live in Southern Arizona. I live out in the desert. Woke up in the morning. We were having a massive wind. It turned into this massive dust storm, and it crashed everything. Electricity was out.
Wow.
Everything. So,
but you're okay. How long did it take to get kind of everything back online?
It was about a day and a night. started in the evening, and I was back up by the time I trolled myself back up from Starbucks because I had to go down to town, right?
Yeah,
do it.
yeah.
So
Crazy. Yeah, I actually used to live in a desert, so former desert dweller as well. I lived in Palm Desert, so not
yeah,
too far away, and I've been caught up in a few dust storms. So I'm glad you were safe. Um, but obviously we were going to talk last week about AI agents and like how we can. I love this phrase: go from friction to flow. But I thought we could chat about, and I think where it'd be helpful to get some insight is, maybe defining the difference. So just talking about the difference between, a chat bot,
yeah.
a co-pilot, and now we got agents. So like, give us a little bit of context there, and like, how can people start to think about these different terminologies?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, we're using so many different words out there. And and sometimes we're misaligning them and people are getting confused about what these different pieces are. So, here's the frame I've been starting to wrap it around for people to kind of help them understand the core difference, right? So, for most of us, we're used to and understand chatbots, right? Chatbots are basically conversational.
Yep.
What they are doing is they are responding and answering to questions. Now we can talk a little bit about the kind of next level down in that, which is depending on what infrastructure they're built on, they're either answering questions with predefined responses or they're actually built on an LLM, and then they're able to actually retrieve data and have a more generative conversation, much more like what we're used to doing with generative AI. So that's a chatbot. Then we have co-pilots, right? Co-pilots actually can provide decision support, right? Co-pilots can help you think forward about kind of what is your next action or next step and can recommend, right? So it's kind of sitting next to you, and you're engaging with it and leveraging it. Honestly, if I think about what most of us are using ChatGPT for today, we're using it like a co-pilot, right?
100%.
Conversation you just had a little bit earlier about kind of how you leverage AI. You go in, you have a thought, you throw your ideas in there, it helps you kind of reframe them. Maybe it asks you some questions, right? And it's really working that space. Then we go to that next level, and now we're starting to get to agentic. And the core difference with agentic is now it's not only recommending, but can actually take action on your behalf, right? Based on what it understands about what you're trying to accomplish or do. The challenge here is, though, that we're all kind of been sold this dream of agentic, and we think all of our chatbots are suddenly going to become agentic in this kind of world over here. But that's not necessarily what's going to happen, because it requires a couple of things. You can have a really smart engagement layer that sits on top that acts like this chatbot you're used to. Maybe it's providing decision support, so it's like a co-pilot, but it can't actually be agentic unless there's an orchestration layer underneath it that it can actually action against, right? So think about it this way. It's like having like a really smart professor who can tell you, you should have done that, but they don't know how to go act. They don't like actually have your car to go drive to the store to go do it for you.
Yeah, it's like it could tell you what to do, but you got to do the work. Whereas
unless there's an additional orchestration layer there. So anyway, that's the difference. You've got your chatbots, your co-pilots, your agents. 99.9% of what we're seeing out there right now is some version of chatbot to co-pilot. We're having a lot of conversations in the industry about moving to agentic, but transparently, we haven't fully gotten there yet because of that orchestration layer.
So from a TA leader perspective, if you were sitting here with a TA leader, what should they really be asking about when it comes to what's behind these agents, what's behind these tech stacks, like the LLMs, the APIs, like what should they be asking about, and like what should they be paying attention to, particularly, I know I get a lot of people pitching me with ideas and like selling, and sometimes it's difficult in those conversations to just know what are the questions I should be asking and what do I need to pay attention to. So what advice would you have for TA leaders in respect to that?
Yeah. So my number one piece of advice is go a little bit deeper and ask, what is this architecture built on, right? Is a couple of keywords all TA leaders who are thinking about their tech stack need to know when they're thinking about chatbots, co-pilots, or agents? Is it built on an NLP? Is it built on an LLM? So an NLP is basically a conversational layer that is going in and getting information that you've already had to feed it based on structured data. So For those of you who are old like me, right? I remember our very first chatbot. Some of these we've gotten a little bit better at designing, but fundamentally what it requires is that you go in and say, here are the list of types of questions I think people are going to ask, and
Yep.
here are the responses that you can give it. So you're creating a decision tree for it, right? And you're telling them what to go and respond against. Most bots are operating like that still today. And it's the difference is in how we populate that tree, not necessarily how the bot operates.
Makes
That's
sense.
the LLM is different. And the LLM is actually operating much like we think about, for example, ChatGPT operates today, or other tools in this space, where it's actually able to absorb data from a variety of different places in unstructured ways and provide a response without knowing we didn't have to program it and tell what the question was going to be ahead of time, right? Fundamentally, if I'm a TA leader, why does it matter if I want these two different pieces? Maybe I'm talking to somebody and say, listen, you really want to structure your data because that way you get to define how it's going to answer, right? Control is a big thing for us. Compliance is a big thing for us. We get concerned about that. Here's why that's still a concern for you. The implementation of an LLP versus an LLM is dramatically different. An LLM, I get the right integrations in there and I don't have to predefine how it goes and operates. It knows how to do that. That's what that AI is doing. An NLP still going to have to build out those trees. It's going to take me a long time to implement. I'm going to have to go back and reframe it all the time. So that could be a really complicated thing.
So more. It sounds like more maintenance, but and more risk.
Yeah, harder to build, more maintenance, more risk, right? Yeah. Then you've got your next lever, which is you've got a lot of NLPs that are starting to put a little LLM on top, kind of like a sprinkle. Like I'm going to sprinkle it. Maybe it's in how you actually implement it. So it's saying, hey, we can help you create those trees by going out and using some sort of LLM in the background to help you build those trees. That provides some support. So these are the types of questions you need to ask. What is it built on? And then the second thing you need to ask is, how is it going to evolve in the future? What is your strategy for where it's going to go, tech vendor or collaborator that I'm working with on this? Is it going to go towards an agentic motion? And if so, what's the orchestration layer going to be? And is it going to be able to collaborate and connect with other agents, which is an additional layer that has to be thought about early on in the development? It's not something that you just kind of attach on. Right, fundamentally. So as a TA leader, you need to understand and ask the questions, what is the core architecture? What is it going to be connected to? And what is the plans for how you're going to connect it to other agents going forward? Because we all know there are very few of us who are living on tech stacks that are isolated tech stacks with one tool, right? What's our biggest pain? Integrations, right? So
I spoke to a TA leader the other week that literally told me that they had 14 different tools that they were using. 14. Like, how do you manage that?
In today's world, it is hugely complicated, right? I did a whole bunch of work last year. I don't know if people remember, we were talking about the difference between integration tools and automation tools, and why it was very important to start moving towards automation tools, because it's starting to set the framework to move to these other components so that you can connect all these things. It is okay to have best in class solutions for maybe your email generator versus your interaction layer versus maybe what you're doing with your rec approval process. You can have those other pieces. It's how they integrate together and how easy are you making it for them to integrate. Is it lined up in that way? So those are some of the core pieces.
Where do you think, if you were to just think about the interactions you've had with TA leaders and the work you're doing, where are some of the key areas that you see people focusing really hard right now in terms of like where they're implementing AI agents or in the chatbots, talking about the co-pilots? Where are some of those key areas?
Yeah, so I actually think this is a challenge space. I think a lot of people that I'm talking to and a lot of companies we're talking to are knowing they need to move this direction, but not actually sure what to start with first, right? Yeah. So they're kind of out there just watching all the marketing buzz thinking, well, that looks kind of cool, right? That's the thing I need. For most of them, what I recommend is that, take a deep breath for a second and look at where you're actually seeing friction. So this kind of is that friction to flow conversation. what these solutions can actually do is help you address friction. Friction usually occurs in information gathering or right? Where is that friction? Or maybe that friction's in how decisions get made or how quickly decisions get made and how you can take action on them. And then the third piece is in how actions are taken, right? So are those integrations working? Can I take actions across various different places? So if you think about it that way, then you can start to look at it and go, where are my friction points? And for most TA leaders, friction points are very easy, right? They are at the very beginning of the process, which is how do I translate my recruitment marketing funnel into relevant applicants, and then how do I provide them with the information and get information from them in the right way to be able to help make good decisions, right? So this is then applying a co-pilot or a bot or an agent on top of this interaction between kind of a candidate and that initial intake.
Yeah.
Now I can flip it on the other side and say the other friction point that we often have is, I don't know about you, but what about hiring managers?
Who? I've never heard of them.
They're so hard to deal with. It's never been a problem. They always know exactly what they're looking for.
Oh yeah. They never go on vacation or conferences like when you need the interview to happen. Yeah.
Right. So if that's a friction place for you, maybe it is. What are you doing to create and take some of these elements of technology and insert it into that conversation so it can support you in that frame, right? We think about the basics, which is like the complexities of scheduling. Nobody likes scheduling interviews.
Everyone hates that. Yeah.
Listen, if I go, I can tell you, I spend hours upon hours talking to TA leaders, like when I'm sitting in the booth and people are coming and asking, you know what the number one thing people want to know about is, how is your scheduling operate? Which to me feels like that's so basic, right?
Yeah.
That's our biggest problem. But the second layer down to that is, how are you doing your intake with hiring managers? How are you digesting information? How are you translating their inputs to provide decision support? Yeah. So think about those friction points. It's in the interactions, and then it's in the very back end, which is that feedback loop. How are you providing feedback, collecting feedback, and sharing feedback inside the company and outside the company with candidates? Those are the big places. So think about your friction places, solve those. You'll start to get the flow, and then we can get to that next layer, which says now we can start talking about how to orchestrate actions.
Oh, I love it. I love it because it's so often we're looking at solutions and we're trying to create problems that aren't there. But I love that idea of friction to flow to solution and finding it. So, Smart Recruiters, where can we find more information about Smart Recruiters? Where can we find more information about you? And I will say, guys, if you are not following ERIN on LinkedIn, you need to. Always just putting out super valuable content around AI, recruitment. And I love how authentic the content is. So if you're not following ERIN on LinkedIn, you need to. But Smart Recruiters, where can people go? What do people need to know?
Yeah, super easy. Smartrecruiters.com. Not a problem. Seriously,
good.
It's easier. And listen, if you want to talk to us, we're going to be out and about. Hopefully, we're going to see you at Unleash.
Yes.
So I'll be actually on the ground at Unleash.
Amazing.
We're going to be in Asia. For those of our friends who are in Asia, we're going to be at HR Tech Singapore, which I'm excited about. That's
super cool.
And we're also going to be with some of our big partners like Visier. They're having a big outsource conference coming up actually next week. We're going to be there. So we've got people out and about talking this conversation and having a dialogue. So go there, go to smartrecruiters.com, and follow me on LinkedIn. We're connecting and starting to build a lot of community conversation too.
Yeah, and you're a top voice for a good reason. Always just really insightful, thoughtful content around AI, and I love some of the personal flair in there as well. Just great to follow you, ERIN. So guys, go to smartrecruiters.com. If you're at any of those events, definitely connect up with ERIN and just see where she's at and see where the team is at as well. But this has been this session, and we're super excited to have Smart Recruiters working with us here. So ERIN, we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Toodles, guys.
Good morning, Rimple. Welcome to the HR Morning Show. How are you?
Good morning, Serge. I'm good, and thank you so much for having me.
So Rimple Patel is the Chief Customer Officer at Eightfold. For those that don't know who you are, Rimple, do you mind giving us a quick glimpse into your background?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have had a almost 20-year career in HR tech. So started at Accenture in the deployment world. Spent 10 years in consulting, doing a lot of large scale transformations, and then went to Workday. So had a really great career at Workday. Was part of the cloud movement from the early days, and then took a brief departure with a company called Celonis, but have spent the last year and a half at Eightfold AI, leading the post sale work. So as a chief customer officer.
So the Chief Customer Officer is relatively a new term in the C-suite. So what does a Chief Customer Officer do?
Yeah, so I think of my role as the role that's really driving customer value. And I'm really the one who's advocating for our customers and really making sure product is building products that are resonating with customers. We're selling things the right way. We're delivering it with the right way. And then obviously making sure that we're driving long-term success, not only to keep customers happy, but to, continue to grow our relationship with them.
So I've been hearing a lot about a buzzword of customer first organizations. I'm just curious of your take. What separates the ones that really walk the talk from the companies that are just using as a buzzword?
Yeah, and I mentioned the term value chain, and I think about that really deeply actually, because often companies are optimizing in silos, and companies' silos become challenges for customers. So, how do you break down those barriers and really root it around a few core principles? And to me, value is one of those core principles. So making sure that the voice of the customer is throughout that journey and experience that we're creating, and always making sure they're represented internally, right? Like I love the Amazon leave a seat at the table, right?
Yeah.
So that's the customer. I haven't found something quite as catchy as that, but I do think representing that customer in every decision we're making. I mean, it's a long-term relationship. I think too often companies do make short-term decisions, but it's making sure that you're making the right decisions for the right reasons for the long term for customers. I think is really important.
So I've been familiar with Eightfold for a really long time, and Eightfold was really AI before AI was cool. What's your take? What's going on in Eightfold right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the name, right? Eightfold AI, and in our emails as well. I mean, first of all, we're living through some fascinating times. And I think the focus on talent is probably greater than ever before. We are as you mentioned, an AI native platform. So our founders, started the company in 2016. Not an HR background, so I think they took a very unique lens to how to solve the problem of matching supply and demand. And when I think about that, it's matching an individual to a learning opportunity, an individual to a job, an individual to a product, right? So they nail the matching aspect, and have built this AI native platform that really serves the entire life cycle of an employee. So everything from talent acquisition to development, when you think about upskilling to deployment, et cetera. So I think just a very unique take and a very outside in perspective on how to solve the the age old problem of matching.
Matching has always been a challenge for sure, and I think it will be a challenge moving forward. So I'm glad Eightfold is taking a look at it and hopefully can drive some innovation in that particular space. So, in doing the research for this interview, I found research that you did with Vodafone, and I thought it was really interesting because one of the things that they implemented was dedicated learning hours. And we've talked about different generations at work and our like how quick everything is moving and how your skills need to evolve really quickly. Tell me more about that. I'm really curious of how they implemented that. What's your thoughts around those dedicated learning hours that we should be providing to our employees?
Yeah, so Vodafone has been a customer for many years. obviously large telecommunications organization, and they came to us because they wanted to build a future ready workforce, right?
Yeah.
And a very skills centric talent strategy, but at the time had little data and visibility into the skills of their global talent, and let alone knowing what skill gaps they need to bridge. So we deployed our full platform, creating really personalized digital experiences. So when you think about not only, I mean, the talent acquisition space is easier to explain, right? Like a candidate goes, it will tell you which jobs they're a great match for based on what they've done and what they have the potential to do. But then once they're an employee, it's everything from like, what are the career options they have? So we have a product called Career Navigator within our talent management product, and then it's to understand, okay, based on these options that are available, how do I bridge the gap based on where I am and where I need to be in order to potentially have this as the next step in my career. And that could be learning. So you mentioned learning specifically. So they saw a huge uptick in learning hours, a 67% increase in the learning hours that their employees were taking, which is huge. But then it's also, our product also then matches to projects. So, you might want to try and do these projects to gain these skills so that you are ready for this next career opportunity. Or connecting more recently to like mentors, right? So who are the people that I need to be connecting with in the organization to learn about these particular areas so that I'm better prepared for this next opportunity. So, fundamentally, like work itself is being done differently, right? It's not in that traditional job sense. And I think, Vodafone's a perfect example of a customer that's kind of embraced that there's different ways to get things done, and how do you prepare a workforce for what needs to actually get done.
Yeah, I've been saying that learning and development is going to become one of the most critical departments in HR, and we're seeing it firsthand. And tools like what Eightful offers is a great asset for a lot of companies that are trying to figure out what that looks like. So, love that you guys are doing that. I actually want to ask you a question about your career path, because it's always very interesting to me. People that come out of university and their first job is in a big consulting firm. So looking back, I know it's a little while back, but not that far. Would you recommend, is that a good thing coming out of school to go work for a big consulting firm?
I mean, I may be biased here, but I think absolutely. And the reason why is, one, you're put in situations where you need to learn really fast and
Yeah.
become an expert really fast. I think you get opportunities to interact with so many different stakeholders, and you see so many different companies. So I think in my 10 years at Accenture, I probably worked with 10 to 15 really large global companies. And it's not just, and I also think it's different for the type of consulting area you're in. I was always in areas where projects were 6 months to a year, sometimes even longer. So you do get to really learn about the business and why you're doing what you're doing, and then seeing things through. And I think those relationships you build stay with you throughout. And I've always approached my consulting years with the mindset that, solve a problem for someone like you'd want them to solve for you. And I think when you take that ownership, you're going to build a legacy wherever you were, but also like maintain these relationships. And it is a tiny world, the HR space, and I guess even just more broadly, but it's very connected. So, but I highly recommend it because I think it teaches you things that at a speed that you wouldn't have learned if you were at a particular company for a long time.
I really appreciate that insight, because I think there's a lot of people watching being like, oh, I'm Gen Z. I'm looking for what I'm going to do coming out of school. And I've always thought the big consulting firms is a great place to start to kind of give you that foundation moving forward. But there is a lot of really cool stuff going on at Eightfold right now. And you have your talent summit. So it's called Cultivate 2025. And there's 2 dates. So you have one here in the US, which is May 14 and the 15 at the Ritz Carlton in Laguna Niguel, California. Then you're heading over across the pond and going to London, UK on June 10th at the Rosewood Hotel. So what is this talent summit? And I heard you're launching something pretty exciting there.
Yeah, so I know I didn't see it in the event roundup, Serge, so we need to add it to
Okay,
that.
we'll add it in. I
But
apologize.
yes, whoever's interested, so Cultivate is our annual customer conference. So we do have one, as you mentioned, in the Americas, and then one in EMEA. So it is really a time where our entire partner ecosystem, our customers get together to share ideas. It's obviously also a place where we launch new things. So I'm not going to be able to share exactly what we're launching, but I will say that when we think about what's going on in the world and how do you drive productivity, how do you reduce cost and adjust these uncertain times, there is going to be a big launch to really address some of these areas, right? Because I think everyone is forced now to think about, do I add a human or do I add an agent, right? So I think how we drive productivity within our customer base and how we message that to future customers is really critical. And so there's going to be some announcements related to that.
Yeah, I got to make sure I tell the producers to add it in
No.
our event roundup, right? But
And if anyone wants a pass, you can email me. I know that the emails were shared earlier, but mine's pretty easy. It's just rimple@eightfold.ai. So please reach out, and we'd love to host you.
That is a really simple email. I also heard you're going to be launching the inaugural Pathfinder Award. So everyone's got to just kind of tune in, go reach out to Rimple directly so you can get some passes. And everyone wants to be in California, right? Or London. So I
It's
think
on the
there's two great
coast.
events.
Yeah, sunny California will be a beautiful location. Both locations are beautiful. But yes, there'll be great content, thought leaders, great connections. And the space is transforming and changing so much that it's a great place to have these conversations and understand what others are doing and be inspired by that.
Well, I really appreciate you joining us. I'm always keeping an eye on what's going on with Eightfold. You're always the ones at every conference with the nicest, biggest boots. So I guess we'll see you at Unleash in that sense. But if anyone wants to get a hold of you, obviously you gave your email address, but is there any preference? Do you prefer them to go to LinkedIn or what's your thoughts?
You can, yes, LinkedIn, and no, like whichever way you want to reach me, email, LinkedIn, and obviously our website, which is just eightfold.ai as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you at these events.
Yes, wonderful. Thanks so much for having me, Serge.
Thank you.
Whoa, we got someone offline in the middle here. That's
Yeah,
all good, though.
Danielle had to
Get
jet
her out.
off, right? Like she's doing big moves out there in San Francisco. But Joel, did you know that we're a podcast as well?
What?
Yes. So everyone watching, please scan, and this will bring you right to Spotify so you can follow us. We're available on every major podcast platform, but from my experience in podcasts, you're usually on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So definitely check it out. Go put in some reviews, some nice reviews. Just say how great the weatherman is. That would be fantastic.
I got my haircut, so you could mention that.
Yeah, you're looking very, very sharp. So the HR Morning Show, please do look it up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Then we have the legend. So there's like some people in this industry that I would call legends or OGs, but Matt
potentially
Alder,
a goat.
He is potentially a goat. So Matt Alder, the Alder Hour, I don't know if you guys have checked it out. It's live every Monday, but you should check out the podcast because Matt is the best podcaster in our industry, bar none. I'm going to give him the title.
He's got that smooth, silky accent. You know, he's like, "Hey, welcome to recruiting." Future recruiting. But the Alder Hour here, though, we are lucky. I mean, we are blessed and honored to have Matt Alder, and the Alder Hour is amazing. He's got co-host Rona
Yes.
as well. It's just an altogether amazing show. So you definitely want to scan the QR code for that as well. Then we got, dude, the hero. I mean, this podcast should just be called Mike's First Job. I don't know why they didn't call it that, but no, My First Job with Mike Wood. I've been on that show. You've been on that show. Paz has been on that show.
No, I haven't. I
Oh,
don't know.
what?
No, I don't think
Danielle's
Mike
been on the
likes me.
show.
I
I
know.
think,
Mike doesn't like me. He
yeah,
never
yeah.
invited me. That's okay, though.
We're only really inviting people who've had jobs, so it's all good. But yeah, My First Job is great. Just hearing about how people got started in their
Yes.
careers and just hearing the stories that behind the scenes. So amazing. So if you're interested in that podcast, please scan the QR code. What do we have next?
From the Desk, one of my favorite podcasts. Jada is amazing, and she has she's coming from a different background as a broadcaster, so she's
Yeah.
actually good at broadcasting, unlike most of us. So definitely check it out. She brings in all the talent leaders and gives some fantastic insight. So scan that one as well. Put it as part of your podcast list.
I love it. I love it. Well, we can have a show without a shout out from one of our core sponsors, ERIN. And look, guys, if you haven't heard of ERIN, if you haven't seen the red shoes popping around, first of all, you
Yeah.
must be color blind because the red shoes are everywhere. If you haven't seen sloths popping around everywhere, red shoes, you clearly have not been to an event. But ERIN is the number one employee referral platform, and for industries like healthcare, for industries like manufacturing, for really any industry that's having trouble attracting talent, you got to tap in your employee referrals, right? Like, you have to tap in your employees. I always say, if you're not getting employees to refer, there's probably something wrong with your company. So, do I
Yeah.
think that replace recruiters? Maybe, but if you haven't checked out ERIN, you need to check out ERIN. But Serge,
would
why don't you
say
give us a
that.
heads up on the G2 awards that they've been winning?
Yeah, well, I guess they won 18 badges in the spring
Woo!
2025 G2 report. Not surprising, they are the leader in HR tech referrals. There's no one better. Mike and the crew have locked it in there. It is a great company. It is a great tool. So, ERIN, we love you.
Yeah, check out ERIN if you guys need to bump up those employee referrals. And it sounds
Yes.
like we got a new sponsor as well. So what's this
We
all
do.
about?
Let's cue it up. Our friend John Baldino.
Legend.
At Humoriso, we're not just another HR consultancy. We're a team of dedicated experts wanting to bring your business forward. Our Humoriso Technology Solutions, HTS, are a different kind of HR tech. Give real-time insights without overwhelming managers with too much data. So whether you're a growing startup, an established company, our human resources outsource support, payroll management are all there to help drive your business forward. So check us out and see what Humoriso could do for you today.
Good morning, beautiful people. As you all know, there's been a strong push for return to the office for a while now. But lately, there's also been a very strong push away from your assigned desk or workstation. And I, for one, I hate it. I'm not a fan. So in 2021, 83% of companies gave employees an assigned desk. In 2024, that's gone down a lot. So that number is now dropped to 55% that share desks or have some type of hot desking model. Oh, hate those. Plus, to make it even worse, they're making the desks smaller. Right now, it's averaging from 39 to 49 square feet. Used to be around double that. And then, I don't know, when I was growing up, I wanted that private corner office. That's what we saw in movies. That's all we wanted. But now, it used to be 16% that you could get a private office. Right now, it's 4%. So I guess the corner office dream is dead for a lot of people. But here's the twist. So all the spaces are getting way more open. They're really, the value proposition is more collaboration. But employees are just trying to find quiet areas. So they're going to work in the cafeteria, they're trying to find meeting rooms, and there is not a lot of those rooms. Like, I don't know if you're like me, but if you're having a meeting, there's nothing worse than hearing all the background noise and trying to focus and concentrate. Drives me crazy. But I think you've guessed at this particular point, I am not a fan of rotating desks. I like my proper setup. I like my multiple monitors. I like the picture of my kids. I like my feng shui. I like my setup. And the thought of going in and going into a new desk every day and setting up the tech and trying to be as efficient as possible doesn't really work for me. So moving your desk every day, it's not a lot of fun. It's like camping. It's fun like for one day, then you just want to go home, right? You want to go to your setup at your home office. So the bottom line, if you're bringing everyone back into the office, and I get it, a lot of companies are doing this, you should have enough room to give everyone their own desk. So that's the HR weather. Let's get back to Joel. What's your take
Man.
there? I know you work from home. I do as well. I've worked
Yeah,
in
yeah.
a corporate office, and I loved having my assigned desk where I had like set up all my monitors and everything was just way more efficient. People knew where they could find me. Like, I hate these open table, these, like, I'm not a
Yeah,
fan
yeah,
of
yeah.
it, but what about you?
I mean, I think one of the things I found really helpful just in business and work in general is routine.
Yeah.
And look, as a recruiter, I'm always constantly facing change, right? Hey, the job spec changed, the candidate requirements changed, the candidate changed their mind, counter offers. There's a lot of change that goes on. And I'm a type person that I need some routine built in.
Yeah.
And it was kind of one of the arguments I had even against hybrid work
Yeah.
was I'd rather be in the office 5 days a week or remote. Like hybrid, I find really difficult because you're changing where you're getting the work done and you're changing the environment. I think I kind of feel similarly about this type of setup where if I don't know where I'm going in, then each day I'm having to think about like, where am I going to sit? Where am I going to get things done? And then at the end of the day, too, it's like if you're distracted with that core tenet of where you're actually going to do the work, it's like how are you able to really focus right from the get go? So I personally am not a fan of this. I'd be interested to hear from people in the comments, like
Yeah, please.
how they feel about that, and just in general. Like maybe we do a poll on this and just and wonder, because I think if this is a strategy that companies are thinking is going to be effective for collaboration, I think you're creating a culture of confusion right from the
Yeah.
get-go. And then you start to get into favoritism as well. I just think like, what if someone stinks? Like, I don't want to sit by them. And it's like, kind of reminds me of like elementary school. I don't know.
Yeah, well, especially there's no separation anymore, too, right? You're literally sitting right next to someone. And I know you can use headphones or whatever the case is, but I don't want to be sitting that close to anyone. I just want my space, right? Like, and
Yeah.
to your point, every morning you're coming in and you're thinking, okay, where am I going to sit today? I got to come in early so I get the best possible space. And that just creates anxiety for no reason at all. And then you take 5-10 minutes to set up your desk and trying to get all lined up, and suddenly you're on a call and everything's loud next to it. Like, it's not an ideal setup. I am not a fan of it. I'd rather be in a cubicle, like, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's such a big thing I think within the office is um, having space, and then having, just having a little bit of separation, because there just are so many distractions. I was talking to someone
Yeah.
over the weekend who actually goes into an office, but they had been remote during the pandemic, and then now they're back in the office, and they said on the whole they actually like the office, which is fine. But they did
Yeah.
say that their biggest challenge was just being able to not be distracted by so many conversations. And
Yeah.
they said that they'd kind of felt lonely and isolated, which I get, which I think is maybe you need to up the social life outside of work. But regardless, they liked like the buzz of the office, but their biggest challenge was not being distracted. And I'm like, I wonder how these different types of things are going to impact work and the results. And to be honest, I think it could end up where we see studies that show like, hey, there isn't actually as many good results, and that could cause a shift back to, hey, man, we need to get people siloed at home without these distractions as well, which I could potentially see happening at some point.
Yeah, it's quite possible, and I think you're right. I think the distractions and I don't know, being so accessible as well seems like a good idea, but not really. Because like I'm trying to do some deep work focus for 2, 3 hours, and when anyone can literally, there's no barriers.
No.
They can come right to your desk, they can start talking to you. Not that I'm against that. I'm a very social person, but I want
Yeah,
to
but
get
if I was coming up to your desk every minute and I'm like, Serge, what's up, man?
yeah.
How's the weekend? You'd be like, dude, just let me do some work.
Exactly. So if you're a leader and you're watching this and you're thinking of having everyone hot desk, please don't. Give the employees some space, right? And what I thought interesting was a lot of leaders in this particular article that I reference is they're running out of room, so they need to hot desk. And I'm like, isn't the issue that isn't that why we're bringing everyone back to the office? If the core issue is we have all this empty office space across all the big
I don't think
cities?
I think we all know that's not the core issue, but I don't want to. It's not the core issue of why they're
No.
bringing people back to the office. I think it's a lot more to do with quiet layoffs and control.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different topic. But anyways,
okay,
that is the
so
weather.
hot desks is a no for Serge, and it's a hard no for me. Let me know what you think in the chat as well,
We'll
and then
let
if
you know.
you have other thoughts on this, and you're like, I don't want to speak publicly because I'm on a hot desk right now, feel free to DM either one of us. We'd love to bring it up in a further session. But I think we made it to the end of the show here.
We've lost some people along the way,
Dude, it's sad.
but me and you, Joel, like we
Dude,
got to the end.
Let's just pound this. Can you do? Yeah, other way.
No.
There we go.
Yeah,
dude, guys, I am so excited to be live and in person with Serge up and coming at Unleash. I know we mentioned that, but I'm super excited for that. And if you're going to Unleash, let us know. We're always looking to collaborate with different brands. If you're looking for a creative activation, an experience, one could say, outside of just the generic stuff you see at booths, let us know. Reach out to us, and we're super excited. And thanks to everybody who's in the chat today. I mean, we had Evan White, Adam Paz, Ulysses, Estelle from Canada. We had Jana, Abhishek, Steven. Real active chat, so we love that. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. And if you didn't scan all of those QR codes, go back, find those QR codes, scan them. That way you get notifications as well. Thanks, Evan. We're proud of you as well. And guys, if you don't know Evan White, you got to get a hold of Evan White because he's a legend. I tell everyone in HR recruiting space, if you don't know Evan, he's the guy in the center of every single party wearing a suit, and he's always smiling. So he's an amazing guy.
He might be smiling less. He got a root canal yesterday. So but all good. Joel, thanks for having me co-host with you today. It's always a fun being on the HR Morning Show.
Yes.
And I agree. Everyone should go and on their favorite podcast app, download or follow us, and definitely would love some great reviews as well. But I appreciate the audience commenting. I appreciate the audience checking in every week. The HR Morning Show. We will be back next Tuesday at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time.
We'll be back on Tuesday at some point in the morning for the HR Morning Show. That's a wrap, guys. Thanks, Serge.